The subjective experience in dealing with the flesh is completely related to the Holy Spirit. A very major and basic work of the Holy Spirit dwelling in us is to work into us the fact that Christ has crucified the flesh on the cross. In other words, the work of the Holy Spirit is to have the cross on Calvary brought into us to become the cross within us. Therefore, the subjective experience in dealing with the flesh is being executed by the Holy Spirit in us. From the Collected Works of Witness Lee, 1953, Volume 3, page 376. This week, we continue the series with fellowship from Brother Ron Kangas responding to questions from working saints during a conference held in the Northeast of the United States in September 2019.
Okay, the church life seems to encourage the saints to have a short courtship, 6 to 12 months. My fellowship usually stops at 6. I consider 12 unnecessarily long unless circumstances require it. And then get married quickly. Once you're engaged, the fire is lit. It's normal that it's run its course. So once you're engaged, get married as soon as it's practical to do it. And you'll find out in your thinking, to plan a wedding meeting is so simple. Yeah. And then you just set out doing it, and you realize there can be quite a bit involved. Okay, but here's the thing. But there seems to be a lack of support, for after the wedding, the actual marriage, when that's the hard part. Well, you're now on a different level. We can't reach into your married life and give you unwanted advice and direct you. We don't do that. We just don't have the ground to do that. If either party asks for fellowship, then we'll give some fellowship if the other party is open. But at the same time, the question is valid that could we have some fellowship regarding a healthy marriage life or the church life? And there's a time for that. So maybe there should be some meetings or even a partial weekend like in Southern California at our camp. And just have some genuine fellowship and principles on a healthy married life. Several years ago, the co-workers, I wasn't involved because of my situation, wrote out a prayer list for 3 weeks. There are two kinds of prayer lists, and the top of one of them was strong spiritual marriages. And I was perplexed. I had no idea. What is a spiritual marriage? I have no idea. What's a strong marriage? I have no idea. And how can we ask dear single sisters to be praying for strong spiritual marriages? They're just praying for a marriage, period. So my inward response was, I think I can share what a divine human marriage is. Here are some characteristics. Well, one thing for the brothers, the husbands, set aside time every week for your family. Brotherly, charge the co-worker to do this strongly. And then once the children come, I advise this. You have more than one. You have the children. Then I recommend what I would call preventative maintenance. You just know things go in cycles and the intensity is increasing. So you work out this kind of relationship. We're related to another family that has 3 or 4 kids. And so look, I'm taking my wife to Desert Hot Springs for 2 or 3 days, or we're going to up to the mountain or to the ocean for 2 or 3 days to be together. And our kids, they love to be with yours. And also, when you need to do the same, we'll take ours. And so my daughter almost 52. My sons, well into their 40s, they can still tell you the best campsite in the high country in Yosemite National Park. Okay, you want to find it? Go in through Merced, follow the signs for the high country, then look for the sign for the Yosemite Creek, and drive along the road. Tell the passenger not to look down because they'll faint. And then take the road into the campsite, go through the campsite to the end till you're the river, and that's the best one I know. I spent a week there. And my grown children will never forget it. We get together and we share the memories and laugh again. Okay. What should you do if many years after having graduated from the training, you still struggle with besetting sins such as losing your temper or indulging in the lust of the flesh? You need to realize something, that the flesh never changes. It never improves. No, that doesn't mean you just give in to it. But you shouldn't expect it to change. And so the behaviors you just described are serious, but they're symptoms. And they're indicators of the Lord wants to train you and shepherd you to learn how to deal with the flesh. And receiving the spiritual understanding and some shepherding will help you a very great deal. You'll understand what it is. You'll understand God's way of dealing with it. Yet it will still be there. And according to the typology, Amalek attacked the Israelites from the rear. They attacked at the weakest point. And the enemy is vicious. He will attack us in the flesh when we're not well, when we're worn out, when we're despondent. He's ruthless. And so this is a lifelong inward warfare. The flesh is lusting against the spirit, but the spirit is counteracting. So we need to concentrate on praying that our spirit will be empowered. Then one other practical matter, I can't go into any more detail, is the last verse of Romans 13. And I believe many of you will know instantly how this can be applied. Paul says, do not make provision for the lust of the flesh. So, the way you use your computer, in what kind of environment you go on the internet, you can do it in more than one way. If you do it wide open, this is a protection. That's just an illustration. I'm not on a crusade. Okay. What does it mean to reject our natural preference regarding marriage? Well, on the negative side, it means that you do not trust your natural preference. You don't have to suppress it. You don't have to deny it. You just don't trust it. Because there are a number of factors that are components that produce this preference within you. And you don't fully know your own being. You don't fully know what the need is. Then on the positive side, you need to be willing to do this, and then the Lord will grace you to enable you to do this. You need to be able to say to the Lord, I want your choice. I want your choice. You are better at this than I am. And I have to be careful. I need to honor my dear wife and cover her. But every day, I'm not exaggerating, every day, we look at each other with love and affection and say, amazing, amazing. How did this happen? It's amazing. And the only answer I can give is, God did this. God did this. And when it's of God, sisters, He's not going to force you to marry this repulsive, geeky, disgusting, peculiar, strange brother, to marry him for your transformation. I already pointed this out. He's not like that. There'll be mutual attraction, mutual affection, compatibility, and you'll just realize, when I became a widower, I stopped others, the co-workers, from making suggestions, and myself was stopped. So you know where I am, you know what I need. And he went to Kazakhstan, a country girl from Kazakhstan. At that time, she had become a Russian citizen because of studying there when the Soviet Union collapsed. And so many apparent outward differences, but immediately we know and the body knows, just right. So any hopeful older sisters in the English-speaking world in North America, they all have to accept the fact Ron Kangas went to Kazakhstan because that was God's wonderful arrangement. I love to talk about that. Okay, can this working saint with a full-time job be considered serving the Lord full-time? Yes, because there's a message on this in elders training, maybe 7 or 8, on living to the Lord. This is to be full-time. So some that are outwardly full-time are not full-time intrinsically. And many that are full-time, that are working full-time, are full-time essentially. What should our attitude be when there are no elders leading ones in our locality? Who should we go to with difficult or sensitive matters or for direction and perfecting as we're learning to serve in the church life and take care of people? Okay, you're not imprisoned in your locality. The whole body is available. And so you yourself may have a sense from the Lord just to send out an email inquiring to Brother so-and-so. Could we have fellowship? Or you may fellowship with someone, a companion, a peer, and they may say, why don't you just contact this brother? We're in the body together. We're in an eternal fellowship. And even if there are elders and leading ones in a locality, for certain things they themselves may realize, like doctors, we're family physicians, we're general practitioners. You need a specialist. So why don't you contact Brother so-and-so? Something like that. Okay. In some interpersonal struggles and sufferings, I am helped by the words of the ministry. Often, the Lord speaks to me through the present speaking of my truth pursuit. Often the message boils down to one thing. I just need to die to live a crucified life. So I've been trying to practice this, but it seems sometimes it breaks down because the other party has no interest in dying to the self. What can I do now? Okay? Well, you cannot deny someone else's self. You cannot force someone to be willing to take the way of the cross. And I'm a little bit concerned about your trying to do this to yourself, I'm a little concerned that you're trying to self-crucify, which is not possible, because we die to the self by, I pointed this out to the trainees the other day, realizing that our old man has already been crucified. And the Lord died through the eternal Spirit. So the Spirit is the connection, but his death and our present situation. In the Spirit, the compound Spirit is the element of Christ, the power of his crucifixion, the effectiveness of his death. So we need to recognize this is the self in us. It needs to be exposed to us. This is the self. Then we deny it in the sense of, no, I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to exhibit this. Now that I'm in the self, I'm going to stop. I don't want to inflict this upon this person. That's the denial. Then you take up the cross by calling on the Lord and the life-giving Spirit who contains the effectiveness of Christ's death, applies the cross to that particular aspect of the self. But you can only do this to and for yourself. You can't cause someone else to do it. You might encourage them. You might say, look, don't stay in yourself. But it depends how touchy they are. If you're walking in a minefield, it doesn't help. But if we're talking about a relationship, a marriage relationship, or a close relationship, eventually your living is going to affect the other party, especially in marriage. If you brothers realize, I'm experiencing Christ not only for myself. The first recipient other than me is my wife. I don't have to say anything. It will just flow to her and from her to me. Okay. I feel there is, what was Brother Lee's feeling about having a district by language? Well, of necessity, so that the saints can pray and function freely, we have to have some kind of language meetings. But he was aware that this can just slide into, you're speaking in your language, now you live according to your culture, you prefer to be with these people as opposed to others. That's the risk. In Anaheim, what we do is there are 5 districts. In the Lord's Table meeting, we have all the languages together. I think it's just beautiful. All the languages together, praying without interpretation. The brothers stand up to break the bread, pray in all the different languages. Then we have a break of half an hour for fellowship. Then the prophesying meeting is in different languages. So there is a need for this, but the hope is that especially those that are not beyond the age where it's hard to learn another language, that they would advance in English and be in the English-speaking meeting. Okay.
Thank you for joining us today. To hear the complete recording and other messages, please visit livingtohim.com. If you would like to receive regular updates from us, please subscribe to this podcast and join our mailing list on our website. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, where our handle is @livingtohim.